Welcome to American Vampire right here at Comicstorian, where we take some of your favorite comic books and we break down the storylines into a synopsis, allowing you to understand what's happening in the world of comics and then go out and buy the next issues yourself. Today we're going to be telling you half of the story of American Vampire 1 through 5. Two stories are told in American Vampire 1 through 5. The Pearl storyline, and then I'm not going to spoil it, but a separate storyline happens throughout all 5 issues. If you want to see the entire story, then you're going to need to check out the issues yourself. But today we're going to tell you a little bit about the world of American Vampire as we celebrate Halloween right here at Comicstorian. A car trundled out into the desert, 30 miles east of Los Angeles. A man in a cloak steps out holding a lantern close by, and he opens the door to the back seat, shining the light on the bodies that lay across it, with flies buzzing over the corpses. Pulling them out, he begins to drag and throw them into a ditch nearby, but he doesn't hear a soft whisper. Pearl's eyes flutter as her lips barely move. Please, I am alive. 3 days ago, Pearl and her friend Hattie are on a movie set where they work as extras. They laugh, they giggle, as they discuss the first ever movie that they ever saw and what made them want to become stars. They get into place as the director yells for them. Okay, extras, into character. Action in 5, and remember, we want terror, he yells. Say something scary, will you? Hattie tells her friend. Rent's due tomorrow, Pearl smiles. Both girls scream their lungs out. Later, both girls are walking back to their apartment, discussing the fact that the rent is actually due tomorrow and how Pearl can cover Hattie if she needs to. I love you, baby, but you're not working 3 jobs to cover your deadbeat roomie, Hattie tells her. Both girls turn to see the man that has been sitting by the pool for the past 3 days. His cowboy hat pulled low and over his eye, shadowing his face. Well, enough is enough. If he's here tomorrow, I'm gonna say something, Pearl huffs. Wait, what if he's a sex fiend or something? Hattie asks, her eyes still on the cowboy. Then I'll be sure to give him your number, Pearl jokes. That night, Pearl heads to her second job, acting as a waitress in a speakeasy. She passes the night away, serving drinks and getting groped. Finally, she walks back into the sunshine at dawn, stretching her aching back. So am I going to be 4 for 4 here? Henry asks, his guitar slung over his shoulder. He points out that he asked her out for coffee 3 nights in a row and she's turned him down. Pearl explains that she needs to get to her next job and the musician offers to walk her. That's okay, really, she tells him, but Henry just starts walking with her. Pearl, it's just a walk, some friendly conversation. I'm not swinging for the fences here. I'm bunting. Let a man bunt, okay? So they walk down the city streets with Henry telling her about some of his history and how he has ridden the rails across America. Pearl, in turn, shares the secret that she has a tattoo of a black sunflower and how it reminds her of home. And finally, they arrive at the diner that Pearl works at for her 3rd job. Henry smiles, asking if Pearl would like to join him at the beach for the 4th of July. If I do, will you tell me some good hobo stories? I mean, really spicy ones, she asks with a smile. Pearl, your ears will bleed. The next day finds the girls back at the set. One of the assistants comes over ordering Pearl to run lines with Mr. Hamilton, the star of the movie. Pearl is starstruck as the man helps her up onto the stage, and he leans in, less running lines and more flirting with her. Pearl stumbles over the words, flirting back with the handsome actor. You know, I like you. You've got something special about you, a quality. BD is throwing a party at his place tonight, out in the Bluffs, Hamilton tells her. Pearl is shocked as he presents her with the address to the producer's home and offers to introduce them. If my instincts are correct, he'll gobble you up, he tells her with a smile. So that night at her house, Pearl yells for Hattie to hurry up. You girls sure do clean up nice, the cowboy smiles at her from his seat at the pool. Pearl turns annoyed at the man and reminding him that the apartments are for women only. But the cowboy just leans forward, telling her, I just like your pool. He pushes up his cowboy hat, smiling at the women. God, why are the jerks always the cute ones? Pearl whispers to herself as she tells the man to be gone by tomorrow or she'll call someone to remove him. You know what? You got spunk, girly. So I'll let you in on a little secret. BD Balach's parties, they ain't no fun at all. If I were you, I'd pass on his little jamboree tonight, the cowboy says, leaning back in his chair. He tells her that the parties are just filled with old Europeans drinking with their pinkies out. Why don't you stay here? I'll show you a real party, he offers. But Hattie comes out and Pearl drags her away to their party. So that night, the girls mill amongst the guests until Hamilton brings Pearl upstairs. He knocks on the door, introducing the young woman to the producer. Pleasure to meet all of you? Pearl says hesitantly as she notices the large group of men in the room. Hamilton shuts the door behind her gently. The men grow closer as Pearl begins to stutter over her words, telling Blanche what a fan she is. But the older men suddenly bear sharp fangs in their mouths, and they leap at Pearl with screams issuing from her lips. The radio plays in the morning, yet Pearl's bed lays unslept in. Hattie knocks on the door, letting Pearl know that Henry has come for a visit, and with no reply, she finally enters and the two are shocked. There's no one there. They drive out into the desert just north of Blotch's house. Henry hits the brakes on his car as they see someone stumbling through the morning sun. "Get her in the car!" Henry gasps as Pearl stumbles towards them. She's half naked, her body covered in bloody wounds. And a short time later, they stand in Pearl's hospital room. The doctor explaining that there is little that they can do for her. Her internal injuries are extensive, and the lack of blood has begun to shut down her organ. If anyone important to her is living nearby, get them here soon, before the morning. "I'm sorry," the doctor tells them. Hattie begins to cry, collapsing into Henry's arms. And that night, the window to Pearl's room is open, with flashes of fireworks illuminating the darkness. A hand reaches up, and Skinner's Sweets appears in the window. "Ain't that a shame? Old Blotch's party actually bored you to death," he whispers with a smile. He leans over the girl's nearly lifeless body, biting his lip enough to drop blood. "Still, I can't in good conscience let you miss out on this country's 149th birthday. It'd be downright unpatriotic of me," he tells her, leaning down, kissing her opened eye. Skinner leaves the room when suddenly Pearl's eyes snap open and her body goes rigid. She's a little girl again, playing in her father's black sunflowers. She can hear him swinging his scythe and reaping. "Daddy, why are you reaping so early?" she asks in a tiny voice, and the man turns, smiling to her, showing his vicious fangs. "There you are. I was looking for you," he hisses. Pearl snaps awake, sitting up sharply. She's in the morgue, surrounded by the bodies. Quickly, she stumbles off her gurney, and she escapes. A short time later, the light in her room snaps on. "Hate to say I told you so," Skinner tells her from his spot on the bed. Pearl whirls around, trying to use the lamp to defend herself. "You're one of them, aren't you?" she snaps, but Skinner just smiles, telling her that he came here to say hello and goodbye. "What happened to me?" "Well, the bad news is, you died." The words hit her hard, and the tears begin to well up in her eyes. She begins to stumble over the past few days while Skinner coaxes her along. "Oh God, what am I?" she asks, stumbling over and looking at herself in the mirror. Her image is distorted, it's twisted. "You tell me. Deep down, you already know it. You can feel it," Skinner says. I'm a vampire. Like them," she finally whispers, but Skinner shakes his head. Oh no, Dolly. You're a vampire like me. And believe me, there's a big difference." Pearl is confused and she begins to ask questions like why the sun doesn't hurt them. But Skinner explains that is evolution. That they are different kinds of vampires. They are the new breed. Sometimes when the blood hits someone new from somewhere new, it makes something new, with a whole new bag of tricks, he tells her, letting her know that the old vampires hate them for it. Skinner then turns to leave, waving goodbye, telling Pearl to listen to her instincts. "Oh, and I left you a note in the icebox, kind of an us versus them scorecard. Peruse it at your leisure," he tells her with a smile. "But why me?" she asks as he reaches the door. "Maybe because I like you, Dolly. Like I said, you got spunk. Actually, I'm counting on it," he tells her as he walks out the door. She found Skinner's note in the icebox with a list of the old vampire's weaknesses. She also found the present that he left for her in the closet. Chase Hamilton doesn't even recognize the woman that he led to her death a few nights ago. He brushes past her simply, his words tumbling out as he reaches for a phone. "You fed me to them," Pearl whispers as Chase begins to dial the police, when suddenly she hisses and her body begins to transform. Her fingers become claws as her jaw elongates, baring her fangs. She slashes Chase, scaring him as the blood begins to pour down his neck. He tries to run, but his body becomes numb and he falls. "I just want to gobble you up, but first we're going to have a little question and answer," she tells him as she drags him back to his room. They find him the next day in his dressing room, torn to pieces and drained of his blood. Hattie wakes up to the feeling that someone is watching her as she sleeps. "Shh, it's just me, Hattie," Pearl tells her friend. Hattie is shocked that Pearl is alive. She jumps out of bed, hugging her friend. "Hattie, listen to me. You have to get out of here now. You're not safe," Pearl tells her. And Hattie begins to cry, not understanding. Pearl shakes her head, handing her an envelope of money, asking if she can stay with another friend from work. "I guess. But Pearl, what happened? Is someone after you?" Hattie asks. "No, I'm after them," Pearl tells her, with anger flashing in her eyes, and she kisses Hattie on the cheek, telling her goodbye, apologizing for the mess on her way out. Meanwhile, at Blotch's estate, the vampires have gathered. He's taunting us, leaving your servant for the world to find, one of them mentions. They begin to argue, discussing how Skinner has agreed to a treaty, which they need to abide. Treaty or no treaty, his very existence is an offense to our race. In the past, we would not have stood for it. Lucia snaps. Your memory is short, my dear. Obviously, you've forgotten the last time we hunted Sweet. Blotch tells her, looking at the photograph of Sweet surrounded by dead vampires. We don't know any of Sweet's weaknesses, nor where to find him. He could go to the vassals. He could ally himself with them. Have any of you thought of that? Blotch asks the group, ordering Edgar and Lucia to head to the address that Chase has telephoned from and clean the mess up there. Despite their arguments, the two vampires head down to the garage and ask one of the actors there to drive them. What they don't see is someone slip through the shadows of the garage stealing a bike. Rumbling down the road, the vampire's driver suddenly looks over to see a beautiful woman riding a motorcycle next to them. Hey, you're Tad Chesterfield, the movie star, Pearl says with a smile. In the flesh, he answers, flashing his best movie star grin. I always hated your movies, Pearl snarls, baring her fangs, leaping over the car, slashing the man's head off with her claws. Ripping a hole in the roof, she hisses at the two vampires within. Rides over, lovebirds! She reaches in, ripping the face off of Edgar. The car careens, crashing into the ditch, Edgar trying to crawl away, using an umbrella to protect himself from the sun. But Pearl leaps at him, stabbing him with a wooden stake. Lucia frees herself, screaming as the sun is burning at her flesh. Looks like Sweet made himself a mongrel bitch! What a pleasure to meet you, she hisses as she sees Pearl. Lucia continues to scream at Pearl as the woman flips open a lighter. But Pearl looks up, seeing the sun setting in the distance. You know, I was going to burn you alive in that wreck, but on second thought, why don't you come out and play? Pearl snarls, her body warping into its feral state as Lucia leaps at her. Claws slash across the vampire's stomach, wounding her, tossing her to the ground. Your kind will never prevail! Lucia snaps. I'm okay so far. Pearl smiles, dragging the woman over, stabbing her onto a cactus, leaving her to die. And later, Henry is playing his guitar in his boat. He hears Pearl's voice behind him as she asks permission to come aboard. He's shocked to see how she's still alive, and he pulls her close. She smiles, telling him it's a long story, and they should go inside. Hey, you're talking to a man on the road here. There isn't a story out there that could shock me. Sometime later, Henry's eyes are wide with shock. You're a good actress. I'll hand it to you. Fine, don't believe me. I just need a place to stay for a few nights, Pearl tells him. She's become visibly tired while speaking to them. Henry tries to argue, but Pearl can barely sit up, so he finally lowers her to the bed. I've been so weak since the sun went down. No moon, she whispers, and the next night, Henry wakes her up, telling her that there's a phone call. It's Hattie, and she says that it's an emergency. Pearl briefly hears Hattie on the line before her voice is replaced by Blotch's. Miss Pearl Jones, I would like to speak to you. You'll meet us for a talk at the big sign on the hill? Shall we say in an hour from now? He whispers to her. Pearl agrees, and the vampire hangs up. Wasting no time, she runs out to Henry's car. He tells her to wait, that he'll come with her, and she finally agrees, and he runs to get the revolver that he keeps in his boat. As he comes out, Pearl drives away. I'm sorry, Henry. This is between me and them. Pearl pulls up to the Hollywood sign with the door creaking shut as she calls for Hattie. Miss Jones, I'm flattered. Truthfully, I wasn't sure I believed you last time we met. Blotch laughs as he and his group step out of the shadows, Hattie trapped in their clutches. But this is the second of my little parties that you've attended this week, and you've come during the moonless nights. I suppose you were being sincere when you said you're a fan of my work. Blotch smiles at her. She glares at the vampires, ordering them to let Hattie go. Blotch nods, and the large vampire that clutches Pearl's friend releases her. With this done, Blotch continues to smile, explaining that he will take Pearl back to his estate and discover the American vampire's true weakness. I will set you up with your own special movie star suite and stab you with every goddamn thing under the sun until we find out what hurts you most, he snarls at her. Pearl steps between the monsters and her friend, whispers for Hattie to run, but Blotch nods to the redhead. Miss Hargrove, you wanted an audition? He says, and Pearl is shocked as Hattie stabs a knife into her back. She looks back, questions playing across her lips. Don't blame me, Pearl. This part is all your fault. You're the one who just couldn't stay dead, Hattie tells her, memories of her dropping off dead bodies in the desert playing through her mind. Hattie explains that she isn't like Pearl. She can't just push through the hard parts. And as she speaks, Blotch comes up next to her. But I'm making real good friends. I'm sorry, Pearl. Hattie tells her. The big vampire slams into Pearl, throwing her against one of the signs, and he comes over with a chain and a collar, telling her to make it easy on herself. Pearl responds by slamming the heel of her shoe into the monster's eye, making her run for it, but another of the creatures slams into her, knocking her off the cliff. Collapsing onto the road below, illuminated by the oncoming headlights, a car screeches to a stop. Pearl! Henry yells as he gets out, grabbing the woman, pulling her into the car, and he begins to drive away. Bonjour! Another vampire snarls as he lands on the roof. Pearl stirs back to life, and Henry orders her to grab the .38 from his pocket. Pearl pulls the gun out, turning and blasting the French vampire in the face as he leans down into the window. The vampire falls from the roof of the car, tumbling along the dirt road. Yes, go run and hide! We're everywhere! The vampire screams into the night. Already weakened by the moonless night and the fight, Pearl slips into unconsciousness. She awakens with Henry over her as he pulls back his shirt, ordering her to drink from him. She tries to fight it, but he insists, and she leans in, drinking deep. Henry's body goes numb from the bite, and he can't move as Pearl leans in for a kiss. Shh, let me take care of you for once, she whispers to him. The next morning, Henry awakens to find Pearl standing outside of the car. She's crying about everything that happened to her in the last couple of days, but Henry hugs her, telling her that he knows that she has guts, that he has seen it in her. You can't run, Pearl. You have to go back, he tells her. Pearl doesn't think she can, reminding him that she just got her guts handed to her. But Henry nods, pulling out his old Marine Corps dog tag, telling her that this time she won't be going alone. I know about fighting for things that matter, he tells her. Pearl hugs him, thanking him for the help. Sure, but I'm only doing this because you still owe me a date, he tells her with a smile. In the desert, Pearl and Henry prepare. They sharpen stakes, and they pull signs out of the ground to sharpen those as well. And with this done, they get back into the car and they drive off. At Blotch's mansion, the vampires celebrate. They've already begun to prepare Hattie to become a big movie star, and they're confident that they will find Pearl. Pearl can run all she wants. Eventually we will find her, Blotch states. But the vampires turn, shocked to see Pearl standing in the doorway, wooden scythe in hand, Henry at her back. Now, Bernie. Careful what you wish for. She snarls at him. They rush forward with wooden scythes slashing to the French vampire first. He screams in pain, falling to the ground. This is for my buddy's car, Henry hisses, leaning over the body with a stake in his hand. He drives it through the monster's chest, blood bursting into the air. A German vampire rushes Pearl, a massive sword in his hand. I remember your taste, like vanilla and berries. It makes me so hungry. He taunts her. He swings the blade, but Pearl dodges it, using her fangs on the monster's throat. Funny, you taste like shit, she spits. She whirls around, finding Blotch holding Henry by the throat. Let him go. You and me can settle this fight, you and me, she tells him, but Blotch shakes his head. This isn't a fight. It is a war. A war you can never win, Miss Jones. You might be stronger than we are, but we are many. We have been in this country before it was a country, and we are everywhere. We are the true line, and you are nothing more than an abomination, Blotch tells her. But Pearl smiles. Now, Bernie, you know what they say about people in glass houses, she snaps, and with a mighty toss, the wooden stake crashes through the window, sunlight streaming into the mansion, burning Blotch up. The vampire screams as he disappears from this world. Henry rushes over to Pearl, asking if she's okay. The young woman is looking at a movie that was playing. Hattie's face is on the screen. I will be. I have one last thing to do, she whispers. At the studio, Hattie is walking into the dressing room, Pearl leaning out of the shadows, asking her if she would give her an autograph. I'd be happy to, Hattie begins, but as she turns, her jaw elongated to reveal her fangs as she hisses and leaps at Pearl. What's the matter, Pearl? Forget your line? Hattie asks as she slashes Pearl across the face. She throws her away, explaining that Hattie took the knife that had Pearl's infected blood and cut herself with it. Believe it or not, this is for the best, Pearl. You are not built for this. You're tough, sure, but when it comes down to it, you're a good person. In the end, you don't have the stomach for this town, Hattie says, stalking towards Pearl. Pearl rears up, slashing Hattie across the gut. Maybe so, but now neither do you, she snarls as she leaps at her, biting into Hattie's neck, slowing her with the toxin in her blood. You're supposed to be my best friend. You want a star so badly? Eat it! Pearl snaps, and she pulls the golden star off of Hattie's dressing room, ramming it into her former friend's throat. The gold hisses as it touches the vampire's skin, and that night, Henry and Pearl walk to the pier, discussing all the places that they can go. Henry eventually moves away to get them a blanket so they can lay on the beach, and Pearl stands on the pier, staring out into the dark ocean. "You're going to kill me, aren't you?" Pearl whispers. "You really need to get out of California, Pearl. This place is making you paranoid." Skinner smiles at her, eating his cotton candy. He turns to her, admitting that he was planning on killing her, but realized all the fun that they could have together. "What do you say? Any chance I can win you away from old Henry?" Skinner asks. Pearl leans close, but tells him that there isn't a chance. He sighs, telling her goodbye again. "Don't worry, doll. I'll make sure it won't be the last time. Plans, so many plans." He smiles as he disappears into the crowd. And that concludes American Vampire, Pearl's story. Now, doing this story was a lot of fun, and we're going to do a couple more horror stories, such as Something's Killing the Children, and some more Marvel and DC-related ones with more deceased and more Marvel zombies. But what do you guys think about getting a weekly or every other week horror story right here at Comicstorian? A scary story from the indie world, like American Vampire, Something's Killing the Children, and the tons of books that Image puts out. Is this something you guys would be interested in? Because if so, let me know in the comments down below. And if all of these horror videos do very well, we might consider doing that. I hope you guys enjoyed. And don't forget, if you want to get the other half of the story that was told in these issues, this was American Vampire issues 1 through 5. And American Vampire continues into many other issues. And they just came out with American Vampire 1976, which is the newest portion of this storyline and the last chapter of American Vampire and the story of Skinner's Suite. So if you guys want to know more, let me know in the comments down below. We could easily do a lot more of these American Vampire storylines, getting you guys all the way caught up with American Vampire in 1976, or we could just do other horror stories. And don't forget to click the link down below to go get it yourself. Thank you guys so much. And don't forget, special thank you to our YouTube memberships and our Patreons. Without you guys, we wouldn't be able to survive through the trying times in the world right now, and we'd all become vampires ourselves. So thank you guys so much.